The Final Smash, a fighter's ultimate trump card. These attacks embody, or at least try to embody, the peak of a Smash fighter's power, usually in the form of something grandiose from their games of origin. And while, yes, they're tied to an item and thus aren't exactly competitive, they're still visually stunning. Well, most of them. Now, the title of this countdown is self-explanatory, but there have been many Final Smashes shown to us ever since its inception in Brawl. Some fighters' Final Smashes have been the same since Brawl, while others have had theirs changed either subtly or completely in newer installments. And since I'm looking at all Final Smashes in order to find my favorites, I'm putting this rule into place for my selections. If a character has had multiple different Final Smashes, or have had different versions of the same Final Smash throughout the series, I'm going with my favorite from the Smash game, or games they come from. All others are fair game. Time to grab that Smash Ball and let the chaos commence. The cool thing about a few of the veterans in Ultimate is they were given a Final Smash that was a better match for those characters than previous Final Smashes they had. The best examples of this are the Star Fox characters. I mean, the Landmaster was alright, but I think many of us wanted Final Smashes where they piloted their aircrafts. Ultimate delivered, but once again, the Star Fox characters basically have the same Final Smash. They team up with their teams to blast opponents that get captured. Even so, these were pretty flashy and got straight to the point. However, this isn't a three-way tie. So who's getting this spot on the list? I'll be honest, this choice boiled down to visual presentation. Fox and Falco's Final Smashes are cool, and they fit their personalities, but out of the three, I think Wolf put on the better display. Wolf's actually looks like a pack of wolves surrounding their prey, followed by the killing assault. And that makes sense. They are Team Starwolf after all. There's really not much to say here. It's just a very viciously stylish Final Smash, one befitting of Wolf and a great example of why you don't mess around with his team, lest you want to meet a swift end. Sonic's inclusion to Brawl was a historic moment indeed, and when you saw his reveal trailer, you knew exactly what his Final Smash was going to be. I mean, they showed it for crying out loud. Since then, Sonic has had two versions of his Final Smash, so which one makes the list? Yes, Ultimate's version of Super Sonic streamlined it, like all the Final Smashes in that game, so it gets right to the punch. And I mean, it's not terrible, but it's just not the same as actually controlling Super Sonic like in Brawl and Smash 4. And what is there to say? It's Super Sonic for a Final Smash. It's fast, you're invincible, and you can't KO in the blast zones. The whole screen is your oyster as you ram into fighters and take their stocks. The only downside I can find with this one is Super Sonic's controls do take some getting used to, but once you do, you're gonna have a really fun time, and thankfully it controls a lot better than freaking Pikachu's Volt Tackle. Seriously, it's a similar Final Smash, so why is that one so hard to control? Well, at least there's a Final Smash that did it right. Yeah, this one is a tie, but like, is anyone really gonna be mad at this one? Sure, the Star Fox Final Smashes in Ultimate are functionally the same, but at least they had cool visuals that made them stand out and made it easier to pick a favorite. But that's not the case here. They're the exact same thing in concept, presentation, and execution. So I'm going with both. But I will say, though Ness's and Lucas's PK Starstorms have changed in every installment of Smash since Brawl, they've all remained some of the coolest Final Smashes in the series. While each version has had similar functions, I'm giving this one to Ultimate mainly, once again, for the visuals. I mean, what's better than Ness and Lucas raining down giant balls of energy on opponents? How about Ness and Lucas raining down giant balls of energy on opponents with their friends? Now, as I'm sure most of you are aware, Ness and Lucas don't actually use PK Starstorm in their games, but rather, it's their friends that can perform it, namely Pooh and Kumatora. So by adding those characters to their Final Smashes, it makes the attack a bit more faithful to the source material. But why add just one of their friends when they can add two? This was a great way of adding more Earthbound representation in Smash without having to add more playable characters. Sure, more fighters from Earthbound would have been nice, but this was still a good alternative. It's lovely, it's rockin', it's Earthbound. Now if we can just get Mother 3 localized. We know you know we want it, Nintendo. I'll be honest, this isn't what I thought it was going to be like when they showed it, but I still love it.
Let's go!
I was really banking on Sora's final smash being a team-up with Riku, whether it was something like the final boss fight of Kingdom Hearts 2, or the attack in that one cutscene in the Dark World in Kingdom Hearts 3. And even though we didn't get that, what we got was still cool and kinda hilarious, not gonna lie. Sora opens a keyhole that sucks in fighters, closes them behind a door that looks a lot like the one at the end of the original Kingdom Hearts, then fires a beam of light on the door's keyhole to lock it up. And then he turns toward the camera to smile as the door explodes into little tiny bite-sized pieces with the fighters still inside. Again, hilarious! With the name sealing the keyhole, you'd think it was going to be like how Sora does it in Kingdom Hearts 2, but this was still a cool final smash. It highlights exactly what a Keyblade is capable of doing, and the way the devs went about it was a very Sakurai way of doing it. So that just means it's awesome. I'll be real with you all, I was not exactly thrilled when Incineroar was revealed as the final new fighter for the base roster for Ultimate. To me, ending on the obligatory expected new Pokemon rep wasn't a great way to end base roster reveals. I've said it once before, I don't hate Incineroar's inclusion, but it really should not have been the last base roster fighter. But that being said, hot dang was its final smash a sight to see. Of the three very cool signature Z moves for the starters in Pokemon Sun and Moon, Incineroar's was by far the best in terms of visuals. So when Incineroar was revealed as a fighter in Ultimate, this Z move had to be its final smash. And it was cranked up to 13+, where the original Z move had Incineroar jump off the side of a ring and just flop onto an opponent. The final smash, Max Malicious Moonsault, is a much more aggressive take on the move. Incineroar throws the opponents toward the side of the ring, then launches them upwards as they bounce back, performs some punches and a kick before headbutting them, while cross-armed, plummeting down onto the ring like a meteor, causing a massive explosion. Man, I knew Incineroar liked to show off, but now it seems like it's just trying to flex and brag. This is about as show-offy as Incineroar can get, and it is glorious. Incineroar, your reveal may not have been that exciting, but your final smash certainly was. Of the final smashes in Brawl, Pit's was by far one of the weakest. It was easy to dodge, and it wasn't even that powerful. Thankfully, Pit had it better in Smash 4 and Ultimate, getting two very different yet very cool final smashes. So which is my favorite? Don't get me wrong, the Lightning Chariot is nice, but it's yet another radical final smash, which Ultimate already had several of. Plus, having Pit use the Lightning Chariot when it's been said that Viridi controls it makes no sense. So this should have been Dark Pit's final smash in Ultimate, since he's actually now working with Viridi. Now the three Sacred Treasures, that's more like it. I think many of us thought this would become Pit's final smash once we saw it in action in Kid Icarus Uprising. And when we actually got it as his final smash in Smash 4, it's pretty much what I thought it would be. Pit dons the three Sacred Treasures and starts firing a barrage of arrows of light across the screen. While some of these shots might be easy to dodge, there's hardly any escape from the final round of shots that Pit fires upward only to then rain down as giant pillars of light. See, that's another prediction I had for Sora's final smash, raining down light like that. This final smash is both pretty to look at, and it's overkill, and I kinda wish they didn't change it in Ultimate. I mean, this was a very straight-to-the-point final smash, and it's clearly the cooler of the two. Well, here's hoping it's not gone for good, and we'll see it again in a later installment. Mega Man's reveal was hype, and his final smash is legendary. I mean, it's in the name after all. I remember in the before times when everyone speculated his final smash was going to be Rush Adapter. How simple-minded we were back then. Come on, they knew how special Mega Man in Smash was. So they made sure his final smash was one to remember by having him team up with every incarnation of Mega Man to fire the most hype-filled fan service laser you could ever imagine. And it got even better in Ultimate with the addition of Proto Man and Bass. Yeah, Mega Man got a lot of love in Smash, much more so than Capcom had given him in the years prior to Smash 4. Glad to see they're giving the Mega Man series a lot more love and attention these days, most likely thanks in part to Mega Man being in Smash. And let's not forget the Smash Invitational from 2014. Oh yeah, I wasn't not gonna talk about this. It was an awesome event to see, but I think we can all agree the most memorable moment was when Mega Man got the Smash Ball in that one match, fired that black hole bomb, and, well, you know the rest. What else is there to say? Mega Legends lives up to the name. It's got all the Mega Man fan service you could ask for in one big, brilliant laser. Oh, come now, you didn't think I was gonna forget these ones, did ya? Yep, another tie. But again, are people really going to be mad about this? I've said it before, Pyra and Mithra's inclusion in Ultimate was the most hyped I've ever been for a fighter reveal, but I was curious to see what their final smashes would be like if they actually got into Smash. All I knew for certain was that Rex was going to be a part of it to give us a form of the Driver-Blade partnership in Smash. And I think they went with the best choices for their final smashes, without being all spoilery. Mind you, we already had Pyra and Mithra's other specials from Xenoblade Chronicles 2 as actual specials in Smash, so it only made sense that their strongest special, Level 4, would be their final smashes. As you can see from the footage, Burning Sword and Sacred Arrow were already pretty overkill and flashy in their game of origin. I mean, just look at this. No wonder Azurda in that one direct thought they were a bit too much for his liking. But man, I didn't think they could make their animations for the moves in Smash almost identical to how they looked in Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And that's why I love these final smashes so much. They paid close attention to the details, capturing the style, flair, and power of the originals and translated it perfectly into Smash. And it was a way for Rex to make an appearance in the battle too. Speaking of, I love how they feature him a lot while playing as Pyra and Mithra. It feels like he has more of a presence in the game than how they treated Chrom in Smash 4. But you know, his model is very detailed, almost like he could work as a fighter in the game. Very curious to see how modders can make it a reality. There's a certain type of final smash that tends to be people's favorites. There's not a name for these, so I'll just call them the hold-in-place assault. Final smashes that require capturing a fighter or fighters and hold captive fighters in place, or in most cases, sends them to the top center of the screen and proceeds to beat the ever-loving crap out of fighters, usually ending in a big final attack that more often than not KOs them. These are all really cool final smashes to watch, but at the end of the day, they're all basically the same. So for my list, I'm going with what I think is the best and is my absolute favorite of this type of final smash. So what could it be? It was clear that if Cloud got into Smash one day, his final smash would be Omni Slash. We got it, but while it's cool, I wasn't exactly wowed by it. Again, because we've seen this type of final smash so many times already. And then Sephiroth was added to Smash Ultimate, and with him came the first and only change to an existing final smash in the game. Sure, you can still see the original Omni Slash if you're playing as Cloud in his original outfit, but the Advent Children costume, which is what I use when playing as Cloud, got Omni Slash version 5, and just look how awesome they made it! Functionality-wise, there's no difference between the two versions of Omni Slash in the game, but the visuals for version 5 are the selling point for it. Cloud splitting his sword into multiple blades that hang in the air as Cloud performs multiple slashes as he moves about grabbing each blade to attack, culminating in one final sword blow. It's flashy, it's overkill, it's the best of this type of final smash in my opinion, but it's only number 2 on the list, so what could top it? Well, before I reveal my number 1 favorite final smash, here are some honorable mentions. It was Love at First Galleon. The instant I saw this final smash, that was it. I knew this one was my favorite. Donkey Kong 64 is yet another N64 game that I didn't grow up with, and while I do have it downloaded on my Wii U, I've barely scratched the surface of that game. And yet, thanks to videos from other content creators, I at least knew a few things about the game. Case in point, the Game Over screen. Of course, we only see the Blast-O-Matic charging up in that sequence. We never see what happens after. That is, until Smash Ultimate came along, added King K. Rool as a fighter at long last, and gave him the Blast-O-Matic as his final smash. And this time, it actually fires and destroys DK Island. And I think this final smash encapsulates King K. Rool's portrayal in Ultimate very well. From his funny expression in the cockpit, to the Blast-O-Matic itself, the charging and firing of its laser, and the bombastic destruction of the island. I love the little detail of the fighters that get caught in the final smash, ending up where the eyes on DK Island would be, before getting blasted to smithereens. Sakurai even gave us a pic of the day, showing us a close-up of what the fighters look like when stuck in the eyes of the DK head, since you can't clearly see this detail when the final smash happens. It's zany, excessive, hilarious, and, of course, explosive. Just what I'd expect from one of my favorite newcomers in Ultimate. I'm Chaos Key, and no matter what direction Smash may take in the future, the final Smash will persist. Not all of them can be winners, and yeah, they aren't exactly something you'll see in competitive play, but they are the super moves of Smash. So you can bet that, when you do see them, they're gonna be something pretty to look at.